It looks like everyone here has started an application. I believe, yes. So if that helps for where you want to go with it too.
So I think that at least one more person is going to be joining us. Is that right, Hannah? That there was a young man that, or I don't know if he's young or not, a guy.
I don't know. I don't know if now, since I told him that it wasn't like a due date, I'm not sure.
Oh, I see. Okay. 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 Well, I will get started then if everyone's ready. I'm Lucy Mercier, and I'm the director of the MSW program at Saginaw Valley. Hannah Long is with us from the graduate office. She's actually hosting our meeting. And I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint with you. I'm just going to kind of run through it, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end of that time. So if I go through something and you want to talk about it, just make a quick note, and then at the end we can ask questions. I see Veronica, Jennifer Brandt, and Delaney. And so can I quickly ask you all, Veronica, can you tell me, are you an SVSU student or grad? Where are you from? What's your background? Are you a social work undergrad?
All right, well, I'm Veronica Frierson. I graduated from CMU, and my undergrad degree is in psychology and family studies. Right now, I work in the mental health field, and I'm a case manager there.
Okay, thanks, Veronica. That's really helpful in terms of knowing what I think I might need to tell you. So, okay, Jennifer, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Jenny Brandt. I am currently an undergraduate student at Alma College. I'm a senior, and I'm studying psychology and education studies, and I'll get my bachelor's of arts in those programs.
Great, thanks, Jenny. And Delaney, I can't see you, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but do you mind introducing yourself? I don't hear you. And that's okay. Hopefully, if you're having trouble with your audio, you can let us know. The chat is available, folks, for typing in questions. And I believe that, Hannah, are you going to post the thing where we can get their email address so I can send them the documents?
Yeah, I was getting ready to grab that right now.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyway, if you have a question or you want to make a comment, then go right ahead and type it in the chat or save it, and we'll talk about it at the end. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about our Master of Social Work program. And as far as I know, none of you are undergraduate social workers. So that means that the Master of Social Work program that you will be applying for is the regular MSW program. And the MSW is a professional degree, which is considered the advanced degree in our profession. So it allows the MSW prepared social worker is allowed to practice independently and get licensed in all 50 states in the United States. So social work is unique. I have an undergraduate degree in psych. And when I moved into my master's in social work program, one of the things that I noticed about the program right away is that it's a helping profession with an emphasis on serving the most oppressed members of society. So it's not all about working in public social services, but the training is about recognizing the needs of oppressed or disadvantaged people. And so the emphasis in our program is partly on understanding and being competent in working with people who are different from you, and also empowering people whose life or environment has led to them having fewer advantages. The College of Health and Human Services, with the college where the social work program is located, has a special emphasis on interprofessional work. So some of our coursework focuses on the work that social workers do on interprofessional teams. And we have some immersion experiences that are part of our program where we learn to work with medical professionals, occupational therapists, health science people, and kinesiology, so physical therapy or athletic training, that sort of thing. And in addition to that, in normal times, so not when there's a pandemic, we have an emphasis on taking students outside of the classroom and doing immersion-based learning. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. We have these courses that are actually trips that all the students and faculty go on together as part of a core part of our program. We developed this program 4.5 years ago in response to a need in our region for more master's prepared social workers. And as part of that preparation for the program, we interviewed or surveyed agencies in our region that were looking to hire MSWs, and they told us that they wanted MSWs that could move into leadership positions in their agencies. So part of our curriculum focuses on development of leadership skills, because most MSWs end up doing some sort of management in their jobs, in addition to the direct client work. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. All MSW programs have a specialization. That's a part of our accreditation requirements. And our specialization is Advanced Generalist. So there are many programs in the United States that have an Advanced Generalist specialization. The oldest in Michigan is Grand Valley's program. So Grand Valley State has an Advanced Generalist program as well. What it means for students in our program is that when they graduate, are trained in both micro or direct client practice and macro practice. And macro practice is policy advocacy, agency leadership, administration, that sort of thing. So everyone in our program takes both micro and macro social work courses. In addition to the required curriculum in micro and macro social work, all students take 6 credits of electives, and those electives can be all in micro social work. If you're really interested in doing direct practice and being in psychotherapy, you can do all direct practice electives, or you can do all macro practice electives, or you do a combination of those. So those are totally up to the student, and they widely range. Advanced practice with family therapy is an example of a really micro focused elective. And then some of the macro courses, really popular one is one called Dear White People that focuses on racism and anti-racism work. So we have a really wide variety of elective courses. When you graduate with your MSW and you are getting ready to be licensed, you can take either the clinical or the macro exam. All social workers have to take an exam in order to be fully licensed. And so you'll be able to take either or both if you want to. You really don't. You only have to take one exam. So you can take either of them and you'll be prepared for both of them. Okay. All right. So I think everybody on this call right now is going to be applying to the regular MSW program. Master of Social Work programs, a lot of credits in them. This is a degree that takes a pretty substantial amount of coursework and time and credit. So there are 59 credits in our program. And you have an option of a 2-year program or a 3-year program. It's exactly the same courses, they're just spread out differently. Okay. 59 credits is a couple of credits fewer than most MSW programs. We did that because we wanted to be a low-cost option for people. We thought that might be attractive. It's a substantial amount of credits, and the fastest you can complete it is in 7 semesters. So that starts in the summer or July and does summer, fall, winter, fall, winter. And then graduation happens. So that's 1, 2, that's 5, sorry, that's 5 semesters. There is an advanced standing MSW track as well that is restricted to students who've graduated with the Bachelor of Social Work in the last 5 years. Okay. The cost for the total program using 2019 tuition at SVSU is $35,700. And it's a pretty inexpensive tuition option for an MSW. We can talk about financing the degree. Most of the students in our program use a combination of student loans and part-time work to pay for their degree. You cannot get federal grants for graduate education. You have to borrow the money with your FAFSA, borrow money and pay it back. SVSU has a pretty substantial scholarship that students can apply for. There are private scholarships that there's a centralized way to apply at SVSU, and not enough students do that. You do have to write essay applications for those scholarships. I'm on a review committee and we hardly get any applications. So would encourage people to consider that. Those scholarships range from a few $100s to a few $1,000s, but that can add up pretty quickly. Okay. So applications for the program are being accepted now through November 28th. And once you've submitted your application, there are some supporting documents that need to be submitted by December 12th. And I'll talk to you more about what those requirements are. The supporting documents include references, and it takes a while for people to get those references back. We're asking that you complete and submit your application as soon as possible so that your references get back in by December 12th. We make decisions for selecting our new cohort by the end of February. And then the regular MSW program starts in July of 2021. The period between February and July is very busy. So students who are coming into the program in the 2-year option have to get a field placement set up. And it takes from March to July to do that. So agency-based field education is part of the program. And it's a complicated process to get that going. So we need to get people on board as quickly as possible. Our advanced standing cohort starts in May. They start a little earlier. But the application deadlines are the same for everybody. Okay. So we're going to send you, when you complete the form that Hannah has put up in the chat, we will send you a course flow sheet and a summary of the application admissions requirements. And so those flow sheets show you your 2-year and 3-year option and how many classes you take each semester and what those classes are and so on. A couple of things you need to know about our program is that our core classes meet only on Fridays, all day Friday, every Friday. And so the good news is classes are all 1 day a week. Bad news is it's every Friday. Generally starting at about 8:30 in the morning and going all the way till 6 o'clock at night. We also, as I said, we have electives that students must take. The electives are offered in 2 credit courses. So you have to take 6 credits, so 3 2-credit courses. And those electives are generally scheduled seminar style on Saturdays or on some weeknight evening. So when I say seminar style, they might meet like from 8 to 3:30 for a couple of Saturdays, or they might meet 2 hours on Thursday evening, partly online, partly face-to-face. Okay, so there are some outside of Friday times in the evening or on Saturdays. Every student in the MSW program completes 900 hours of agency-based field education. In the 2-year program, students are in field placement in the fall and winter semesters of both years, 16 hours a week each semester. What that means is that besides Friday, students are in placement or in school 2 other days a week, so 3 days a week as a commitment. Generally, our agencies accept students Monday through Friday during business hours, so you can't go on Friday, so it's Monday through Thursday during regular business hours. So the commitment to an MSW means time for the coursework and homework and all that stuff, and then generally 16 hours a week for field placement. The workload in the program is pretty substantial. Most of our students work at least part-time. I know a couple of students are still working full-time. They've flexed their work time so that they're actually working 40 hours a week. They're in field placement 16 hours a week, and they're in class 8 hours a week. And they're burning out. But you know, if they have families to support or something, you know, they need to do what they do. I'm telling you the workload is pretty substantial. So students really have to be in a place where they are have the support and the time and the energy and the help to do the program. Sometimes students choose the 3-year option for the regular program because the first year of that 3-year option, they're not in field placement. They're taking classes, but they're not doing 16 hours a week of field placement during the first year. And so that allows them to sort of ease into the workload. But in that 3-year option, the 2nd and 3rd years, they're in field placement 16 hours a week. Okay. Field education is considered the most important part of the social work curriculum. Everything that you do in coursework goes into preparing you for your field placements. So in the regular MSW program, you complete actually 960 hours over 4 semesters. And as I said, that's 16 hours a week. In the 2-year option, you will be in placement fall and winter of both the first year and the 2nd year. And there are 2 different placements, a first-year placement and an advanced placement. In the 3-year option, you don't have field placement the first year, and then you have a placement during the 2nd year and a different placement during the 3rd year of the program. We have a field office. Staff arrange for approving placement sites and field instructors. Those are agency-based people that supervise your field experience. Field Field education is a series of courses that you receive a grade in. It's not really an internship in the sense of go and learn how to do something. There's a curriculum, there's instruction, faculty work with the students and the field agency to get you prepared to be a social worker after you graduate. So we have a field office that makes those arrangements, and we use a job fair style placement arrangement. So rather than being matched with the placement and saying, that's it, you got to do it, we either interview students individually and then ask them to interview with agencies, or we host a job fair where all the internship agencies come and interview students and invite them to the agency for further interviews before the agency and the student mutually agree on the placement. So students have a choice in the kinds of agency experiences that they get. And agencies also have a choice in selecting students for those experiences. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what we and Delaney asked a good question. When would a part-time student start field education? So part-time, I guess, would be a 3-year program, and Delaney, it's in the 2nd year of the program. So in the fall semester of year 2. Okay, so in normal times when we are meeting face-to-face, all students in our program start the program with a 3-day immersion trip to Chicago. Paid for by your tuition. The faculty and the student cohort get on the train, the Amtrak. We go to Chicago, and we spend 3 days learning about the history of social work, eating food, Chicago-style pizza, and learning about the different neighborhoods and cultures that make up a city like that. The birthplace of American social work is Chicago, and so we do a tour of the historic places in the museum, and we all get to know each other, and the faculty get to know the students very well. And we talk about social work history, ethics, and about cultural competence, the core values of social work. It's really a great trip. This year we had to do the trip virtually, and it actually turned out pretty well. We Zoomed for 3 whole days together. And it was kind of fun, actually. I was impressed with the way that it worked out. We also require every student in our program to engage in a 3-day immersion on agency leadership. We used to call that the Detroit trip, but again, we did that virtually this year. Students go to Detroit and look at the emergence of innovative social service programs in an urban setting that's been through a lot. And we look at creativity and agency leadership and agency mission. And it's also a very cool trip. These immersion experiences are courses, so that we don't have you sitting in a classroom taking notes and lecturing to you. Instead, we engage with you. We visit agencies, we talk to people, we have you do stuff and watch you and coach you. Part of the uniqueness of our program is the way in which the faculty and students work together kind of side by side on these projects. Learn while you're doing rather than sitting and learning in a sort of more disengaged way. The other thing I'd just like to highlight is that we have students work in small groups to complete a research project. So research is a part of every MSW curriculum. And what we do is we have you learn how to do an agency evaluation with a real agency, and you complete a real evaluation project, and then your name, your authorship is on that project, which you can add to your resume. People really want to hire social workers who know how to do program evaluation. And so we, in small groups, this semester I'm working with a group of 8 students, and I are doing a program evaluation with an agency that works with homelessness and youth in Saginaw. And so we get data from them and we do a lit review and we write about their program and we look at the data and analyze it and write a big report together. It's a year-long project. So I'll be working with these 8 students for 2 semesters. And that's another sort of immersion experience. So instead of teaching students statistics, we teach them how to actually engage in an evaluation project and write it up so that they have that skill when they leave our program. Okay, I'll kind of move along here. Here's some of the admission criteria. This information is on the documents that will be sent to you. So you don't have to write it down, but I'll go over it with you. So the admission criteria for our regular MSW program, you need to have graduated with your bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university. We don't care what discipline your degree is in, but the college or university must be accredited, and you have to have graduated by the time you start the program. So if you're graduating in the winter or first half of the summer, so what we call spring at SVSU, you would be eligible for the regular program that starts in 2021, or if you've already graduated. So you have to have, of course, finished your undergraduate degree before you can start the graduate program. We would prefer your GPA in the most recent 60 credits of college be a 3.0 or higher. If it is, and we calculate that for you when we get your transcripts, we will calculate that. If it is not at a 3.0, you may submit a petition to be considered for admission with a lower GPA. And so when I'm evaluating those admissions criteria and I spot somebody whose GPA is 2.95 instead of 3.0, I email them and say, we would, if you'd still like us to consider you, please submit a letter stating that you would like to be considered for admission and why is your GPA 2.95 instead of 3.0. So we do accept people with lower than a 3 point in the most recent 60 credits. There is an online application, which I think is pretty simple to fill out. Hannah is the contact person for people when they apply, because I don't get to see those applications until they're completed and submitted to me. She can help with that end of it since she works in the graduate office. We do need all of your undergraduate, and if you've taken graduate coursework somewhere else, graduate transcripts that need to be sent to SVSU so that we can review them. There is a personal reflection. That personal reflection is an assignment. There are 2 questions that we ask you to respond to and submit along with your application. We need you to submit the names and email addresses of 3 references, professional references from your teachers, your supervisor, in some sort of volunteer work, or if you've done a placement before this, or an employer that knows about you and about your work. If you're an international student and you need to submit English language scores, we request that. And the other thing we ask for is a resume. We'd like to review all the other stuff about you that isn't included on your transcript or other documents that you're submitting. So that's the admissions criteria for the regular MSW program. They're very similar criteria for our advanced standing MSW program. There are some differences though. Only people with the bachelor's social work degree in the past 5 years are eligible to apply for that program. And the GPA criteria is 3.25 or higher, and there's no petition for that program. Otherwise, quite similar. We're fully accredited by the Council on Social Work Education. That's the national accrediting body for social work education programs. A CSWE accredited program is required for state licensure. So if you're shopping around, make sure that any other MSW program that you're looking at is also fully accredited. So there is a link for SVSU application instructions. When we send you documents, this link is on there for you. You're going to need to create a username and password for the application system by following the directions. You'll need to write the professional reflection. That's the 2 questions that I told you about. I'm going to ask you to just put your name on the cover page and not on every page of that reflection. You'll end up with about 4 written pages, and we need to scrub it of identifiers before we send it out to be reviewed. So if you just put it on the first page, then that's real easy for me to do. A resume, your transcripts, names and email addresses for 3 references, and your English language scores if that's required. I think the application process is quite simple. Seems to take people forever to complete it. I'm not really sure why, but just get in there and do it. If you're thinking that you want to apply to our program, then get that application turned in and those references to us. There is information for me. There's a picture of us on the train to Chicago. There's contact information for me. That's my cell phone number, and you're welcome to text me on my email address. And then for Hannah, her cell phone for text, and then her email address as well. So I would be able to answer your questions about the program, the curriculum, our processes for admission. Hannah is a much better contact for technical questions. Things like problems with the website, or how do I submit something, or whatever, those kinds of things. And that is it. I think I flew through that, probably the fastest I've ever gone. But now that means we have plenty of time for, I'll leave this up actually. We have plenty of time for questions. So what kind of questions do you have, or what would you like me to talk about?
I just had a quick question. I work at Saginaw Psychological, and I know we have interns from SVSU. I'm not sure if they're social work interns or not, but for someone like me who works at an agency, would I have to find like another agency to go through?
So that's actually a great question. And the answer to that question is there are a couple of things. We do have some students who do what we call employment-related field education. And what that means is they work in their employing agency for money, and their employer has allowed them to use some of their work hours to work in a different program with a different supervisor doing a different master's level thing and still get paid. So it requires a agreement from everybody. The field office has to look at your current job description and the proposed things that you need to do, the proposed tasks. You have to have an LMSW field instructor at the agency who is different from someone who's currently supervising you. The agency has to agree to this arrangement, and the agency itself has to sign a legal agreement with the university, which Saginaw Psych has already done. So yes, it's possible, but remember that you can't do that for both years. So you have 2 field placements. They have to be different from each other. You can't do the same thing for both years. So it may work for one of the years, and then the other year you'll have to work outside of that agency. It's a bit complicated, but it's not impossible. Okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have a question?
I have a question. Do you know if there are GA positions available on campus for students to obtain in order to help with finance and stuff?
We currently do not have any assistantships for social work. Hannah, are you aware of there being grad assistant positions that are open generally for application?
There are a few that open, and it's kind of department by department. So I know Career Services has one. I believe they just got a new one for this year, but they get posted on like our job site, like the Cardinal Career Network. And so that posts like any of the jobs internally for students. So you would find a position if any become available for next year, they'd be there.
So Jenny, I have advocated for this. We're a relatively new program, and I continue to do that, but we currently don't have any positions in the MSW program at this point.
Okay, I also had another question.
Yeah.
So no matter when we turn in our application or if we turn it in before the due date, like everybody's gonna know their decision like by February, like after February 28th or like on February 28th?
So we send out admissions a couple of things. February 28th is the last day that we will know. So it is my intention that we would be done before that. But there are a lot of moving pieces here. We have to have everything evaluated and all that thing. We generally do all of the like the acceptance letters go out within a couple of day period. So yes, we will wait till we have everything in, and then we'll evaluate the whole group. And then the letters will go out before February 28th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think that's what you were asking. We won't accept people before November 28th. Even if you finish before that, we're going to wait until everybody gets their stuff in so we can look at the whole pool. Okay. Okay, what else? You want to talk about it? Like, what's it like, kind of a thing?
Well, I had one question. It's kind of about the website. I know you talked about the professional statement, excuse me. And you said there were 2 questions that we needed to answer. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
If you
Because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If you go to the instructions page,
Okay.
MSW application, one of these
Okay.
links is not working because I got an email today, I think, Hannah, you responded to. But the instructions are actually on the instructions page.
Okay. I think I see it. I was just confused about the 2 questions because I wrote something up and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't answer 2 questions. So I just wanted to be sure. So I'll go back and look at that.
So I'm gonna screen share again, and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about.
And I just put the link to the website in the chat too, so anyone else.
Okay. So can you guys see this? This is the link goes to this page, and it has application details here on this. I am screen sharing, right? And so this professional statement and critical response, there's a link in here that has the 2 questions. And if that's not what you've done, Veronica, then you have to write it. It wants to know if I can open it. There it is. Oops. And now I need to move it over here so you can see. It's these 2 questions.
Okay, thank you.
And we want you to identify a social justice issue and talk about it. So there are those 2. Those are the 2 questions.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay, Delaney wants to know if we have field placements in the Department of Corrections. So we have lots of field placements in criminal justice settings. So here's the thing, in social work, you must be supervised by a licensed master's level social worker, and the Department of Corrections has very few LMSWs working for them who are willing to take students. So we have got placements at places that do treatment with people who are incarcerated. So TRICAP is one example of that, an agency that provides treatment for substance abuse and some mental health disorders and that sort of thing. We have lots of placements with people who are either transitioning out of the criminal justice system or youth who are in adjudicated youth who are in treatment centers or facilities. So yes, we have a fair number of CJ, undergraduate CJ students who come into our program to get their MSW and then move into sort of the treatment end of criminal justice. So if that's your background, Delaney, there would certainly be placements available that would fit your interest. And of course, we think that substance abuse interventions and mental health interventions are important for people who are working in corrections as well. So understanding those dynamics and knowing about the treatment process and that sort of thing. So we do have those. I'm going to look at the chat again to see if I've missed any questions here. Okay, nothing else. Anything else that you would like to talk about?
I have a question. Do you have school social work certificates available, or can you choose that as a path to get certified as one?
So school social workers, certified school social workers, as you probably know, certification for school social workers is done through the Department of Education. And we're in the process of becoming a site for certifying school social work credentials, but we are not currently providing them. So it's a process that takes a couple of years. And since we're such a new program, we haven't gone through the process yet. I mean, frankly, we didn't even try the first couple of years because we were busy. But we're in the process of doing that. People who want to be certified school social workers have to have an MSW plus some coursework plus some experience working with school-age children in groups. So many people graduate with their MSW, then they take the school certificate courses, generally online, and then apply to the Department of Ed for their school social work certification. I generally refer people to Michigan State University's school social work courses because they're totally online. They're expensive, but you can just take the courses online. And what I tell students is if you really, really want to do this, take them at MSU while you're in our program, transfer them back to us and we'll count them as your electives. So you would forego taking the 6 credits of electives in our program. We would accept MSU's school social work courses as your electives, and then you would have that done and then do a school social work field placement. So it's possible to do both at the same time, but we aren't currently offering those courses because we are not yet approved by the Department of Education. Okay. To be clear, you can work in a school setting as a school social worker, and that's what most social workers do. So with an MSW, you can work in a school setting. Can't call yourself a school social worker. You're a social worker who works in the schools. But that's what most people do. If you want to get the school social work certification, you have to take the generally 3 courses and apply to the Department of Ed. Okay. I always have more complicated answers than people ask, more than what people are asking. Okay, what else? Hannah, do you want to add anything?
I guess touching on the dates again for the application, so that way everyone knows. So when you begin your application, you'll need to submit it. So complete everything and submit it by November 28th. And so that is, like this is like your employer, your education history, and clicking submit there. That's like the biggest thing in your application. Will say application submitted. You have until the 12th of December to do everything else. So uploading your resume and getting your references, your, writing your questions. You have that until the 12th. So there's two deadlines within there, within like the larger application period. So that way you don't get to a point and think you've completed it or worry about getting everything done by the 28th. So you have a little bit of extra time for the writing part, for the additional stuff.
So are they still getting occasional reminders with the status of their application once they do that?
Yep, you'll receive every 5 days, you should receive either an email or a text message or both from us, just reminding you and making sure that your application, that way if you've completed everything you need to do up until the deadline. So yeah, you definitely will receive text messages or emails.
And I think that's a good thing, because I had a couple of students last year who thought they had completed their application, but they never, there's like the submit thing that you have to do a couple of times at the end.
Mhm.
And I said, just keep hitting that button until it tells you you can't hit it anymore. There's like, submitted, are you sure? Yes. Okay, then I'm gonna
Yes.
submit.
Yeah,
So-
and that's, you don't have to like do everything and then click submit. You can, complete the application, click submit, and then do everything else. That's sometimes where people get stumped up too.
Yeah.
They're like, they don't realize they did everything, but they didn't submit their application.
I have one more quick question. Typically, how many people are admitted to the program each semester?
I was just thinking that nobody had asked me that question yet, so thank you. So we planned the regular program to be 20 students. Now, that seems like not very many, and people freak out because they think, oh, I'm not going to get admitted. Last year we had 27 qualified people, and we offered admission to all of them. They met our criteria, we felt comfortable with them, and so we expanded the class to meet that. Why not? And then we offered it 2 sections instead of 1 section, so that the class size was actually small, pretty small. But we are planning to admit 20 students. That seems to be around the right size. And you go through the program cohort style. So the people that you are admitted with, you will travel all the way through the program with that class of students. You join together with the advanced standing students in the final 2 semesters of your program, where everybody is in the advanced curriculum. So those classes, your group is bigger, but the class sizes are about the same, no more than 20. This year, our average class size is about 15 for each section. We teach some classes cohort style. What that means is that 3 sections of students might all be in the same space together with 3 instructors. So we have the 3 instructors teaching together to a larger group of students, and then having what we call lab time, so breakout time with the individual instructors to work on skills, practice something that we've been working on, do a demonstration together or something, or work on a project together. But it's really cool to get 3 faculty together co-teaching something that they all see differently. I'm really excited about that. We're the only MSW program in the state that uses that model, and it's really dynamic. I had a lot of trouble staying awake when I was a student, and so we've done everything we can think of to help students feel engaged in the process, and even if that means bringing in more teachers, so that there's lots and lots of stuff going on all the time. We recognize that people are really tired, they're overworked, it's all day long, so we kind of keep it moving. So 20, we have about we have a goal of 40 advanced standing students. We have a BSW program at SVSU that's quite large, so we graduate about 100 students a year. from that program. And we take about 40 advanced standing students a year from that program generally. And, you know, Central, and we have students come from U of M and U of M Flint for our program as well. But for the regular program, about 20. Anything else? Are we covering everything you need, Delaney? Okay, good. Then nobody wants to ask me about pandemic and what we're planning to do next year? It's always a question.
That was my next question, but I wanted to give somebody else a chance.
I was gonna ask that too.
So in March, we went online, and we have been virtual since then. So when I meet, we're online, but we're online like this. So when I meet with my research group, we have a Zoom meeting with the 9 of us on, we meet on Zoom, face to face on Zoom. So it's not like I just post stuff and they're just doing it by themselves. That's a 2-credit class, and I spend about 6 hours a week with them. So we have a class meeting about every other week. And then I meet with subgroups of the class a couple of times a week as they're working on their projects. So on Zoom. Our larger courses have between 10 and 18 students in them. And those classes are meeting on Friday during their allotted time on Zoom. And we will continue to do that through the end of our winter semester, so through the end of April. If, and that's a big old if, things look safe, we will move to the spring will be hybrid. So classes will be both face-to-face and synchronously online. And then in the fall, our intention is to go back to face-to-face classes. So spring and summer will be a combination. And then in the fall, I just sent the schedule in. Our plan is to be face-to-face again. If it is not safe, we will move back to synchronous Zoom classes on Friday. So, and I have to say that, so we made this decision early. The university was very supportive. The faculty worked really hard. And actually, I think it's been great. I actually think in some ways it's been easy. But we have students, remember, almost every student is in field education placements. And so we have a dozen students in quarantine right now. Not because they came to school, but because they're working in social services or they're doing field placement in social services, and there's been an exposure there. And so that now they're back in quarantine. So if we had been doing face-to-face classes, we wouldn't be able to meet face-to-face. And so I think we made the right decision, and we're really, 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 really careful about making sure that we can get people through the program, get their field hours in, get their field placements to be meaningful, and not do any unnecessary exposure in the classroom where you sit and breathe each other's air for like 12 hours on a Friday. So, though we'll see, our intent has always been to be a face-to-face program. Like really face-to-face, like let's go to Chicago and spend 3 days together, eating, sleeping in a dorm, you know, that kind of thing. We will try to return to that model when it is safe to do that. But obviously, we're not traveling anytime soon. So. And I wish I could be more certain, but we don't really know.
I have a question kind of based off of that. So when we find out if we get like if we get an acceptance letter, I know usually there's like a time frame that schools want an answer back. But considering that we may like students may be hearing from other like graduate schools or possibly like with COVID-19, because like I just mean like personally, I really want to go for a program that has a high chance of being face-to-face, because I'm just not good with online. So just a personal thing, but like how long do you usually give students to be able to give that response after if you were to get an acceptance letter?
So so our deadline for responding is dependent on the field office's need to begin the field placement process. So Jenny, do you think you would be a 2-year or a 3-year applicant?
2-year probably.
So that means that you need to start the field placement process. So last year we had about the same decision date, and students needed to get back to us by the end of March or they weren't going to be able to get into field placement. Most students, of course, responded sooner than that, and they were able to kind of get into that process quicker. But the sooner the better in terms of getting the field placement arranged. It's always the perennial problem. So what we know is that people are applying to more than one program, and I really encourage that. I think that I taught at the BSW level for many years, and I would tell students all the time, apply to a couple of programs and see, you may decide that what you thought was your first choice is not really somewhere you want to go, or might not get in. So we recognize that people have a number of options. The problem is not responding by the deadline means that you won't be able to get into field placement, which makes the whole program decision kind of go by the wayside. So we're a little earlier than most schools. And so what that means is that we often have students who are waiting until the last possible minute to respond to us. And what I say to those students is, if we have a seat available when you respond, we'll let you in. But we can't put off making our decisions based on your waiting. So it's really hard. I don't know. I never know what to tell people. So you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, and I hear you about the face-to-face thing. I think we had 9 students last year who were admitted. And remember, so it was middle of March, so they'd already accepted their place, and then the pandemic happened, and we had 9 students ask to defer their start date until this coming year, and we allowed that. So they, I hope, will be coming back in. They never started the program because they didn't want to do they didn't want to do the online thing. And I understand that that's difficult for many people. As I said, it's been surprisingly successful for us. Students seem happy. Faculty is not crazy yet. It's been okay. But it isn't the same, right? It really isn't the same. So I guess, I wish it were different, but it is what it is. Okay, what else? Trying to think of other common questions. Well, I will say this, if you have other questions and you would like to text or email me or Hannah, please don't hesitate to do that. I have faculty who are happy to spend time talking to you. So my faculty act as advisors to students in the program, and they are more than happy to talk to you on the phone, Zoom with you, email, whatever it is, to answer your questions, to talk about things like career options and what are the course load like. And I don't know, sometimes it's nice to meet somebody besides the director and kind of get a feel for the program. The things that are different about us than some of the other, I taught for MSU for many, many years. Some of the things that are different are that the full-time faculty teach all the classes in our program. So we currently have one adjunct faculty member who teaches one class. She has 25 years of experience at another university, retired, and is doing this one class for us as a favor. We only have one adjunct faculty in the whole program. Everything is taught by the full-time faculty. We spend a lot of time with the students, even though we're virtual. As I said, I meet with students all the time, all through the week. I work every night because they're all working, so I have to wait till they're off work to talk to them. And that's different than the other universities where I've worked, where the full-time faculty are busy doing research projects or they're not really teaching classes. We have a tight cohort model, which means that when you start with your cohort of 15 or 18 students and you get to know them and you take all your classes together all the way through the program, you have a support system in place, and you get to know each other really well, and you become a tight group because we're small enough that you'll see those students in every class that you have for the rest of the program. We're a pretty diverse program, so we have a fair number of traditional social work students, fresh out of grad school, fresh out of undergrad, female, right? And we also have a fair number of non-traditional students. So people who have worked for a while, people who are balancing work and family and school, a fair number of men in our program. I'm really proud of that. We've worked hard to increase that diversity because social work is such a female-dominated profession. We have a good relationship with a number of communities where people of color are more likely to come from. So we have been able to recruit diverse students in terms of race and ethnicity. We have a very strong social justice component to our program. And so people are interested in advocacy for immigration, LGBTQ people, poverty, all of those, interesting groups are represented both in the faculty and the student population. There's a culture in our department to encourage students to be engaged at that level, learning how to do advocacy for social justice concerns. So SVSU is a great university if you've not been a student there before. I'm a big fan. That's why I work there. I've worked in other places. And SVSU is the best place for students, in my opinion, in terms of getting the kind of attention I think you need to get when you're spending all that money getting a degree. You may as well get somebody to pay attention to you. So I could do the whole rah-rah SVSU thing for a long time, but I think we have a lot to offer. There are also some other really good MSW programs out there. I encourage you to shop around and think about it. When you do your tuition calculation, make sure you include tuition and fees to make sure that you're comparing the number I gave you is all inclusive. So there are no fees in addition to that. So a lot of universities have tuition, but they don't tell you what the fees are going to be. So, and the number of credits and things like that. So, okay, that was my big ad spiel. Anything else? I think that if you have filled out the form that Hannah posted, then we're going to send out documents that have information about the admissions requirements and the link and all that stuff on them to you as well. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming, and let me know if you have any other questions. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hope to hear from you soon.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Real quick question.